Senora absolutely was set apart. There was an expectation that we would treat Spanish as, our primary language, which again, very different from everything else that obviously was taught in English. And then the fact that she would interweave her life story into what we were reading and what we were learning was really quite impressive. As I recall, when I first met Senora Supervilla, it was in September or October of 1966. I did not have her as a teacher until 2 years later. I absolutely remember hoping to get her. There was, for me at least, a real mystique about having Senora Supervilla as a teacher, because it meant that you had reached the top level of what Sidwell Friends was offering. And in fact, it meant that you had been selected from a larger number of students who were studying Spanish to really have the chance to sit around that table in her classroom. You felt as though you were a young adult as opposed to being a teenager, because she expected you to have observations and to challenge her thinking, and maybe to bring something new out of the literature that maybe she hadn't seen. Life here at Sidwell Friends in the late 60s was a time, I'd say, of contradiction, challenge, but frankly also opportunity. So what that meant was that we were all engaged intellectually, socially, in some of the issues of the day. We were living in a world as teenagers of great dislocation, and here we were with a much older role model who had had a life of dislocation. And particularly because of her particular background and her husband's background around the Spanish Civil War, we had a real sense of some of the tough challenges that Europe faced during the 30s and the 40s, because we had with us a couple who had experienced some of that, and that came into the classroom. We were not just learning from her, though she was a great teacher. I felt I was learning with her as she was sharing things, and I had to therefore be an active part of the education because it was a give and take. The fact that there was someone who I knew who was actually in my life, 5 days a week, being a teacher, having had such a phenomenally different life experience from my own, I found then, and I do now, to be one of sort of the eye-opening experiences, transformative kinds of experiences of a really great teacher in a really phenomenal high school.